Every morning, the world begins again, whether we're ready or not. The alarms ring, the screens light up, and billions of human beings resume the ritual they never chose but somehow learned to follow. Some people wake on soft mattresses in quiet rooms, others in loud cities or aching bodies. Some wake with hope, others wake with dread. But all of them, without exception, carry the same silent question somewhere inside them. What is the point of living if every joy eventually turns into pain? It's a question nobody says out loud because the world punishes honesty more than anything else. We hide it behind routines, responsibilities, and forced smiles, but the question waits, patient, heavy, unblinking. You feel it when you look at old photos, the kind where you're smiling without trying, unaware of the decay that time would bring. You didn't know the friendships would fade. You didn't know the people in the picture would become strangers. You didn't know the innocence in your eyes would one day feel foreign. You didn't know the moment you were living would one day hurt to remember. That's the hidden cruelty of joy. It doesn't stay. It gives you something beautiful and then waits for the right moment to take it back. And when it does, it feels like losing something twice. Once when it ended, and again when you remember how good it used to feel. Maybe that's why adults envy children, not because of their freedom, but because children don't yet understand the price of happiness. They laugh without fear. They run without thinking about time. They trust without flinching. They live without knowing that every joy has an expiration date. But as you grow older, you start to notice the pattern. The first time you lose someone, the first time someone leaves you behind, the first heartbreak that tears something out of you that never quite grows back, the first night you cry quietly so no one hears. These moments don't just hurt, they educate. They teach you the rules of a game you didn't ask to play. Nothing beautiful stays, and everything that stays eventually hurts. You start to see it in the world around you. A couple holding hands today might never speak again next year. A laugh you hear today might belong to someone who cries themselves to sleep tonight. Even the strong fall apart when nobody is looking. Even the happiest people carry invisible scars. And you realize the world isn't divided into the joyful and the suffering. Everyone is both. Joy is the momentary light, pain is the shadow that follows, and you can't have one without inviting the other. Look at society. We built entire systems to distract ourselves from the terror of simply being alive. We created jobs, titles, responsibilities, deadlines, ambitions, layers and layers of structure to hide the fact that life rarely makes sense. We measure our worth in productivity, in money, in how well we pretend to have it together. But underneath every achievement, there's a quiet fear. What now? What next? And how long before this joy becomes another memory that hurts? You get the promotion, but it brings stress. You fall in love, but you fear losing the person. You reach a goal, but the satisfaction fades faster each time. It feels like the moment you find joy, time starts counting down to when it will be taken away. And yet, we keep going. Even when life feels heavy, even when we don't have answers, we keep waking up to a world that rarely feels gentle. Because somewhere deep inside us, beneath the doubt and the fear and the fatigue, there's a part of us that refuses to let go. Not because we're fearless, but because stopping feels like accepting defeat. Maybe that's the quiet tragedy of being human. We continue even when we're tired, even when we're afraid, even when we know joy won't last. We continue because something inside us is wired to hope, even when hope hurts. And that's where the weight lies, not just in the pain itself, but in the awareness. Humans suffer long before anything goes wrong. We suffer in anticipation, we suffer in memory, we suffer in imagination. A dog feels pain when it's hurt. A human feels pain when hurt, when remembering being hurt, and when fearing future hurt. We live in past pain, present pain, and future pain all at once. And still, we chase moments of joy as if we're trying to outrun a shadow that always knows where we're going. Maybe that's why the question feels so heavy, because deep down, we already know the truth. Everything we love will eventually become a source of pain. Not because love is wrong, but because life is temporary. People change, bodies age, time takes, and memories fade at the exact pace that we try to hold on to them. And it makes you wonder, what's the point of all this? Why play a game where the ending is guaranteed to break your heart? The universe doesn't answer. It doesn't explain itself. It doesn't justify the rules. It doesn't promise fairness. It doesn't promise meaning. It simply exists, indifferent to our questioning. And in that indifference, humans feel small, fragile, overwhelmed. The world keeps spinning, unmoved by who suffers and who doesn't. But somehow, despite it all, we are still here, breathing, breaking, rebuilding, remembering, forgetting, trying again. And maybe that raises a deeper question. If every joy turns into pain, then why does something inside us still fight to experience joy anyway? If you pay attention long enough, you begin to see the hidden architecture of human life. Everything beautiful becomes a wound, and everything temporary becomes a ghost. Time is the thief, but memory is the accomplice. It doesn't just take things from you, it makes you watch. You don't simply lose people, you lose versions of them. You lose versions of yourself. The laughter that once came naturally now feels like something borrowed. The innocence that wrapped you like a second skin slowly dissolves until all that's left is someone who knows too much to ever go back. Think of your childhood, the one you revisit in dreams, in photographs, in random moments that hit you like a wave. Back then, you didn't know that joy was fragile. You didn't know that the friends you swore you'd never lose would one day disappear into their own lives. You didn't know that the places you played in would be torn down or paved over. You didn't know that the people you loved with your whole heart would age, weaken, or vanish without warning. You didn't know that the version of you who felt so alive, so unguarded, so effortlessly hopeful would one day become a memory that hurts to touch. Time didn't just move forward, it took everything with it. And then there's love, the greatest joy and the deepest grief wrapped in the same skin. We grow up thinking love is the antidote to loneliness, the reward for surviving the world. But nobody tells you the truth. Love is a risk disguised as a comfort. To love someone is to hand them a map to your vulnerable places. To love someone is to give them permission to break you, not because they want to, but because life eventually will. Every relationship, even the happiest, contains the seed of its own ending. If the relationship doesn't die, the people in it will. It sounds cruel, but it's the reality we all live with. You will either watch the people you love disappear first, or they will watch you vanish first. But humans still love. We still try, we still cling, we still hope. And that's what makes the whole thing so haunting. Even knowing love will break us in the end, we choose it anyway, like walking into a burning house because the warmth feels better than the cold outside. We're wired to seek connection, even if connection means loss. That's the contradiction at the core of human existence. We crave what we know will hurt us. We chase the same flames that once burned us. We beg for the same feelings that once destroyed us. Not because we're foolish, but because it's impossible to live without trying to feel something that reminds us we're still human. Look around long enough, and you'll see the evidence etched into the world. A mother keeping the room of her deceased child untouched, as if time could be negotiated. An old man sitting alone on a park bench, staring at the place where he once kissed the love of his life. A woman scrolling through messages from someone she once meant everything to, now cold and distant. A person who keeps replaying a voice note because it's the last time they heard the laughter of someone they'll never see again. These aren't stories, they're ordinary lives. Every person you walk past carries an entire universe of losses you will never see. Even the happiest memories hurt in the end. Birthdays, reunions, holidays, moments that were supposed to be pure. But the moment becomes a memory, and the memory becomes a reminder of what you can't get back. Sometimes you replay an old memory so much it starts to feel like a punishment, because you remember who you were in that moment, and you realize you'll never be that person again. Even joy eventually becomes a scar, not because something went wrong, but because time moved forward. And then there's the suffering the world pretends not to see. Cities full of people smiling on the outside, but collapsing on the inside. People who go to work and return home in silence, carrying grief no one knows about. People who break down in bathrooms so their loved ones won't hear. People who hold themselves together all day, only to fall apart alone at night. We call this normal, but it's not normal. It's survival. And the cost of survival is heavy. The cost is pretending you're okay when you're not. The cost is smiling when everything hurts. The cost is living in a world where everyone is breaking quietly, hoping someone will understand without having to ask. But what makes pain even sharper is the awareness that everything ends. No matter how deeply you love someone, no matter how tightly you hold on to a moment, no matter how much you try to protect the things that matter to you, time will still take them. That's not pessimism. It's the structure of existence. Plants wither, animals age, people die, stars collapse. Nothing, not even the universe itself, is safe from decay. And knowing this doesn't make it easier. If anything, it makes joy feel more dangerous, because every moment of joy carries its future absence like a shadow. And yet, there is something strange, almost miraculous, in the fact that we still feel joy at all, that we still laugh, still hope, still dream, still love, even knowing the cost. Maybe that's the darkest truth. Humans can't stop caring, even when caring hurts, even when caring destroys us, even when caring guarantees future suffering. We were built to feel deeply, even when the things we feel deeply about don't last. So what's the point of living if every joy eventually turns into pain? Maybe the point isn't joy. Maybe the point isn't pain. Maybe the point is the way we carry both. How we refuse to go numb, how we refuse to stop feeling, how we allow ourselves to be vulnerable in a world that has never once promised to be kind. Maybe the point is that even when everything falls apart, even when the world seems too heavy, even when the silence feels unbearable, we still keep going. Not because life is beautiful, not because life is easy, but because something inside us refuses to let darkness be the final word. If you've ever stared at the night sky long enough, you've felt it, the crushing, silent weight of the universe. You can see it in the stars, the galaxies, the black void expanding endlessly beyond human comprehension. And for a moment you understand something terrifying. The universe does not care. Not about your dreams, your heartbreak, your joy, your suffering, your survival, or your disappearance. The stars don't shine for you. The sun doesn't rise for you. The world doesn't pause when your heart breaks. Time doesn't slow when you fall apart. Everything continues, indifferent. And that indifference is a truth most people are too afraid to face. Because once you realize nothing in the universe is designed for you, the idea of meaning becomes fragile. Look at history. Empires rose and fell, leaving behind ruins swallowed by earth. Entire civilizations, millions of individual stories, loves, fears, dreams, gone without a trace. The universe didn't mourn them. Volcanoes erupted and erased cities in minutes. Plagues wiped out generations. Earthquakes split the ground open beneath people who never saw it coming. And the planet moved on. No pause, no apology, no grief. Nature doesn't bend for human suffering. It barely acknowledges it. You and everything you love exist on a rock, spinning through space, with no map, no destination, no supervisor, no safety net. And yet humans insist on pretending we matter. We build skyscrapers to defy gravity. We invent gods to defy silence. We create languages, morals, philosophies, love stories, anything to convince ourselves we're more than cosmic accidents. But deep down the fear remains. What if none of it means anything? What if we were never meant to exist? What if consciousness is just a glitch in nature, an error that led us to ask questions with no answers? Think about it. Animals live and die without needing meaning. Trees grow, burn, regrow, rot, repeat. Rivers flow whether you're happy or devastated. The universe doesn't worry, wonder, question, search, or fear. Only humans do. Only humans lie awake at 3 a.m. questioning their purpose. Only humans cry over memories. Only humans feel guilt, shame, regret. Only humans carry emotional wounds deeper than physical ones. Consciousness gave us awareness, but awareness gave us suffering. Because to be aware is to understand that everything ends and nothing stays. The moment we recognized our own mortality, we became creatures cursed with knowledge. Even science offers no comfort. It tells us the universe is 13.8 billion years old. Our entire lifespan is less than a blink on that scale. Everything humans have ever created, from the first fire to the tallest skyscraper, exists within a sliver so thin it might as well be nothing. The stars you see likely died millions of years ago. The light you admire is just the ghost of something long gone. Even the concept of permanence is an illusion. Mountains erode, oceans evaporate, stars explode. If the universe itself is temporary, what chance do we have? And then there's suffering, the only thing the universe distributes without discrimination. People starve while others waste food. Children die while tyrants grow old in luxury. Innocent people suffer in hospitals, prisons, war zones, while the world spins indifferently. Every minute, somewhere, someone takes their last breath alone. Every minute, someone collapses under a pain they've carried in silence. Every minute, someone's happiness turns into grief. And the world keeps moving. The sky stays blue. The birds keep flying. Cars keep honking. Laughter and tragedy share the same hour, the same street, the same second. The universe does not pause for fairness. It never did. That's why the question, what's the point of living if every joy eventually turns into pain, feels so heavy, because pain doesn't need purpose to exist. Pain doesn't wait for permission. Pain doesn't need a reason to arrive, it simply does. Joy, on the other hand, joy is rare, fleeting, delicate. You have to chase it. You have to fight for it. You have to hold it carefully, and even then it slips away. Every time you laugh, there's a part of you that knows the laughter will fade. Every time you fall in love, there's a part of you that knows one day you'll lose the person or they'll lose you. Every moment of joy carries the grief of its ending inside it, like a seed waiting for the right season to grow. But here's the strangest part. Even though the universe is indifferent, humans are not. We feel endlessly, we care too much, we break easily, we rebuild slowly, we grieve deeply, we love recklessly. We attach ourselves to people, moments, dreams, places, as if they're anchors in an ocean made of chaos. Maybe that's the real tragedy. Humans were built to care in a universe that doesn't, and caring in a place that won't care back is the definition of suffering. Still, there's something quietly defiant in the way humans continue. Even when the universe refuses to give meaning, we create it anyway. Even when the world doesn't care about our pain, we care about each other's pain. Even when everything ends, we still try to build something worth remembering. Even when we know joy will one day turn to pain, we still choose joy, not because it's safe, but because it's real. And the real is all we have. Maybe the point isn't to find meaning in the universe. Maybe the point is to understand the universe won't give meaning and that we create it anyway. Maybe the point is that in a world of indifference, every act of kindness is rebellion. Every moment of joy is resistance. Every memory is a victory over time. Every heartbeat is a refusal to disappear quietly. Maybe the point is not to erase the darkness, but to survive it long enough to see something beautiful again, even if it doesn't last. So here we are, at the end of the question that has haunted every thinking human since consciousness flickered into existence. What's the point of living if every joy eventually turns into pain? After all the grief, the endings, the losses, the cosmic indifference, what's left? Why do we keep getting up in a world that never promised us anything? Why don't we quit when the math of existence rarely adds up in our favor? Why do we keep searching for happiness when its expiration date is written the moment it arrives? Maybe the answer isn't in the light. Maybe it's in the darkness. Because darkness is where humans are truly revealed, stripped of illusions, stripped of comfort, stripped of everything except what's real. In the darkness, you see yourself clearly. You see the wounds you've survived. You see the grief you carry. You see the moments that broke you. But you also see the moments that saved you, even if only for a second. A stranger's kindness, a song that hit you at the right moment, a laugh you didn't expect, a memory that reminds you that you were alive once, truly alive. Maybe the point isn't to outrun the darkness. Maybe the point is to learn how to hold a candle in it, even if the wind tries to blow it out. And that's the strange, almost unbelievable part of being human. We don't live because life is painless. We live because something inside us refuses to give up. Not hope. Hope is too delicate. Not happiness. Happiness is too temporary. What we have is something deeper, something older, something instinctual, a spark, a stubbornness, a defiance, call it whatever you want. But it's the reason humans crawl out of ruins, rebuild after war, love again after heartbreak, smile again after nights of crying, try again after failing 100 times. It's the reason people who lost everything still wake up. It's the reason someone standing on the edge steps back. It's the reason the world keeps going despite everything throwing itself at our hearts. We don't endure because we are strong. We endure because we were built to. Not perfectly, not gracefully, not without breaking, but we were built to continue in the face of everything that should have stopped us. The universe may not care, but we do. And maybe that's the point. Maybe meaning isn't something we discover. Maybe it's something we create in the cracks of our suffering. Think about the small rebellions that happen every day. A father working night shifts just to buy his child a birthday gift. A teenager comforting a friend who feels like giving up. A nurse holding the hand of a dying patient so they don't leave the world alone. A couple dancing in their kitchen to a song only they care about. A lonely person crying at 2 a.m. but still waking up for work at 7. These moments don't change the universe, but they change us. They prove that even in a world that feels meaningless, we are capable of creating meaning through how we show up for one another. Maybe life isn't supposed to be understood. It's supposed to be felt. And feelings are messy. They're not logical, they don't follow rules, but they make us human. Joy hurts because it's real. Pain hurts because it mattered. Grief hurts because love existed. And even when we lose everything, the love remains in the form of ache. That ache is proof that we lived, that we cared, that something touched us deeply enough to leave a scar. If every joy ends in pain, then pain is not a failure, it's the natural aftermath of caring in a temporary world. Pain is the shadow cast by everything meaningful. Pain is the cost of being human. Pain is the evidence that you were alive. And that's why some people say that the saddest thing is not suffering, it's feeling nothing at all. Because numbness means you've given up on the possibility of anything touching you again. Pain says otherwise. Pain whispers, you still have something left to lose. And as long as something inside you fears losing, it means you haven't died inside yet. Think about the people you love. Every one of them will hurt you someday, not by choice, but by existence. They will age, they will leave, they will die. And yet you love them anyway. Not because you're delusional, but because love is the closest thing to meaning we ever truly feel. Love is the only thing we chase, even when it guarantees heartbreak. Love is the only thing we grieve deeply because it mattered deeply. And maybe that's why humans keep going. Not for purpose, not for destiny, not for cosmic significance, but for each other. Look at history. Every great act of courage, every sacrifice, every invention, every piece of art, every moment of compassion was created by someone who knew the world didn't care, but chose to care anyway. In a universe that is silent, humans became the noise. In a universe that forgets, humans became memory. In a universe that destroys, humans became builders. In a universe that does not love, humans dared to love anyway. And maybe that's the answer. Maybe the point of life isn't to avoid the pain. Maybe the point is to survive it and still choose to feel. Not because joy lasts, not because life is fair, not because we are promised anything, but because somewhere in the middle of suffering, we still find moments that make the pain worth carrying. Moments small enough to miss, but powerful enough to save us. A hand held, a breath of laughter, a sunrise after a sleepless night, a warm voice saying, "I'm here." A memory that hurts, but also reminds you of who you were. A hope you can't explain. A stubborn spark that refuses to die. We keep living not because joy is permanent, but because pain is survivable. We keep living because even in a world built on endings, something inside us believes in beginnings. We keep living because the universe may not care, but we do. And that is enough. So ask the question again, what's the point of living if every joy eventually turns into pain? The point is this, to feel every moment deeply, even when it hurts, and to keep going anyway. Because continuing is the loudest, most rebellious thing a fragile human can do in an indifferent universe.